Geralyn Lucas is with us this morning. October, of course, as we all know, we see the pink on the NFL players. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Geralyn Lucas is the author of Then Came Life, Living with Courage, Spirit, and Gratitude After Breast Cancer. Is this you, Geralyn? Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show. Now, let's see. Why did you wear lipstick to your mastectomy?
Such a good question. I never wore lipstick before. I was a gloss girl. And I just decided it was this crazy moment. I looked down, I saw the hospital gown. It said property of Mount Sinai Hospital. I felt like I, too, had strangely become property of the hospital. And I just wanted to dare myself and become the woman I never thought I could be. And I thought it would be really amazing if everyone saw it in the OR. And, of course, when they woke me up, the nurses kind of freaked out, like, what kind of brand are you wearing? It lasted for 7 hours.
You were suddenly a consultant.
Yeah.
Take me back, if you will, to when you received your diagnosis. And can you put into words what that felt like?
Another good question. I didn't know that someone my age could actually get breast cancer. I mean, I was only 27. I no known family history. I thought my mom had to have it. My grandmother, I thought I had to be 40. I just felt like I was so, it's funny, my husband's a doctor, and he said they must have the wrong sample. They must have made a mistake.
Wow.
Because we were like that stunned by it. And I think my first question was, am I going to die? And I just thought, this is so cruel. I mean, I got my first job in journalism. I was finally, out of grad school, and I wanted to, it was the doctor's appointment where I showed my doctor the lump. I actually found it myself, was when I wanted to talk to her about trying to get pregnant. I mean, I felt like everything was starting, so it felt like everything was ending.
Now, explain the significance of the title of your book, Then Came Life?
So I was lucky enough, not only did I get to live, but I had what I call 2 miracle children in the same hospital where I had my mastectomy years later. A lot of doctors said it was too dangerous to get pregnant, that I'd have a hormonal surge. A lot of doctors told me I'd never even have the chance, that I would go into menopause after 6 months of chemotherapy. They couldn't bank my eggs. So, I mean, life, kind of the absolute life of being able to have children and breastfeed with one boob, and I mean, it was crazy. But also, I think the book is really for every woman. It's not just a cancer book. It's about surviving anything and maybe going through what you think is the hardest thing in your life, and always kind of using that as your absolute moment of courage, but then realizing there are all these other moments going forward where you're going to have to summon the same kind of courage and survive life with the same kind of humor that you survived this tragedy. And I think it's also, a lot of women will connect with it. It's really about the echoes of something that happens in your life that maybe you weren't prepared for, and just how you dealt with that and how it informs your life going forward.
We're talking to Geralyn Lucas, who is the author of Then Came Life, Living with Courage, Spirit, and Gratitude After Breast Cancer. Diagnosed with breast cancer at 27 years old. Now, have you found out since then, does this happen to other, how unusual was your situation?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that, because sadly it's not that unusual. And we don't know if it's better detection or better awareness or actually an increase, but there are women in their 20s and 30s and 40s getting breast cancer. Of course, it's more common when you're older, and that becomes a greater risk factor. I just sat last week with a 23-year-old who was diagnosed. And I think that the worst part about being a young woman when you find a breast lump is being turned away by a doctor and being told you're too young, because it takes a tremendous amount of courage to actually get yourself to a doctor, to do a breast exam, to find this lump, and then, to unfortunately have a delay in diagnosis. So I think that doctors are doing a much better job of realizing young women can and do get breast cancer. There are actually a few support groups that are exclusively dedicated. Young Survival Coalition is a big group that's really gone out to the medical community to try to educate them, to try to include younger women in clinical trials. Unfortunately, a lot of times younger women have very different type of disease than older women have. It's more common to have estrogen-negative disease, which can be a lot trickier to treat. That's what I had. And again, oncofertility is a new field where they're trying to figure out how do we bank eggs before you go through your chemotherapy so you can, delay this kind of part of your dream that you wanted to do. So unfortunately, we are seeing young women with breast cancer. It's not that unusual.
I think it's so wonderful, though, that you bring these issues to light, especially the fact, as you said, about storing the eggs, because this issue probably was never even thought about or talked about before you brought it up. I mean, as far as women with cancer.
Yes, So I'm a 19-year survivor, which is hard to believe.
Congratulations.
And, thank you. All I wanted to do was hit 30. And I felt like the reason I wrote the first book was I just felt like I didn't know any of this, and I had a job in communications. It was almost a responsibility to share it and to provide hope and to tell not only younger women, younger women especially, but it was kind of the book I wanted to read when I was diagnosed. No one ever told me kind of the truth about a lot of it, like losing a nipple and getting a new nipple and, all these kind of things that aren't really talked about. But I think that Then Came Life is it's such a responsibility, too, to let people know kind of what happened after and that I'm still okay. And by the way, I just want to say that, a lot of times people will say to me, oh, you're still alive, you're so positive. Sadly, last year I lost my cousin, and she was misdiagnosed, and, she was so positive. So many people who are positive, unfortunately, don't make it. I was lucky I had the right chemo. I was lucky I found my lump. I was lucky, So I talk about that in the book, too. I talk about not only, having new life, but losing life. And I think it's the full spectrum of living that's covered.
Do you have a website, Geralyn?
I do. You could just find me. The great thing, I didn't realize this about technology. My webmaster said if you want to come find me why I wore lipstick, you could find me there. You could find me Then Came Life, and also just my name, Geralyn Lucas. And it has links where you can get my new book, and I'm so excited. I got to audition to tape the Audible copy of my book. So I won the audition. Can you believe I got to read my own book?
You got the audition to be the voice of your own book. That's a good. I'm sure that doesn't always happen that way, though.
It doesn't, and it's funny because I was played by a tall blonde in my movie, and I'm a petite brunette. And I thought it was such brilliant casting. I'm glad she played me because she had fantastic legs and a huge heart.
Oh, well, that's good. Geralyn, thank you so much, and continued good health.
Thank you. I really appreciate you spreading the word. It's going to save lives.